Hey guys, Jay Hoyt here. Before we get into today's video, we tell you guys at the start of every single one of these videos that the vast majority of you guys is not subscribed. So make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications so you never miss an upload, and don't forget, you can always change your mind later. What's on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to Call of Duty Vanguard. We are back here on Das House, and we're actually using a different gun because I've been kind of sick of using the MP40. But this past weekend was the CDL Kickoff Classic, and oh boy, was it a classic event. Lots of good matches throughout this entire weekend, Friday through Sunday. It was a good one. So my predictions weren't far off. Let's just say they weren't far off, except for once we get to Saturday. But either way, we had a good time, right? Let's start out with the recap. So that's what we're doing in today's video. We're recapping the entire event. Fortunately, I wasn't able to watch as much as I wanted to. Obviously, life gets in the way. But on Friday, we had the Seattle Surge versus the London Royal Ravens. Seattle comes out with the 3-0, a great debut for Sib and for Pred. Both those guys looked incredible throughout the entire weekend. A little bit of a spoiler alert, but they looked really good. I didn't really get to see the London squad too much. On to our next squads, though, we had the New York Subliners versus the Boston Breach. Now, what we had said, if I remember correctly, was Boston actually has been looking really good, and this one could be a close matchup. Now New York does come away with the 3-2 victory in Game 5, but they even, I think it was a reverse sweep as well, if I remember correctly as well. Yeah, not how you want to start your debut if you're Boston. On to our next matchup. LA Thieves versus the Paris Legion. I think I nailed this one pretty perfectly. I think I called it 3-0, 3-1. It ended up being a 3-1. You know, LA looked good, actually. Really, really good throughout this weekend as well. Our fourth matchup, the Florida Mutineers versus the LA Guerrillas. Now, this one I predicted. This is the only one I believe out of the first round that I got wrong. I thought the LA Guerrillas were going to come out and show, you know, that they've made, you know, turned a completely new page, new chapter, wrote a new book. And no, Florida comes out and wins this one. Obviously, it's only a one match, you know, sample size. But, of course, we need more to kind of gauge these teams. But Florida does walk away with a 3-1 victory, moving them on to Saturday, where we have some of our teams that did not play on Friday, including, but not limited to, our reigning champs, the Atlanta FaZe. These guys come out, they look strong, you know, they looked really good, but so did Seattle. A rematch from Stage 5, or what was it, Major 5? Stage 5 Major last year, where Seattle ended up taking out Atlanta. They do it again. They take them out 3-1, sending Atlanta home. Yeah, you heard me right. Atlanta goes home in their first matchup of the Kickoff Classic. And that's just one of our 4 teams that had a bye through the first round that now is going home. On to our second matchup. We have the Minnesota Rokkr versus the New York Subliners. Minnesota with the bye. Minnesota goes home. New York wins this one 3-0. I did not see this matchup, but I heard a lot of guys were frying Paco, aka Hydra, and Neptune. Apparently they were going off in this series. But Minnesota goes home, being our second team from the second round bye, or the first round bye, I should say, goes home. But that can't keep going, right? We got to go home. OpTic, Texas versus LA Thieves. And make that 3 teams that had a first round bye that go home. OpTic, Texas lose this one. I ended up watching this on Saturday, or not on Saturday, on Sunday morning. So I didn't actually get to see it live, unfortunately. But yeah, they didn't really show up too much in this one. I mean, they looked good in the control, but that was about it. Like, they looked okay, but they basically got outslayed the entire time. Like, Dashy was the only person that was positive. Scump definitely didn't have a good weekend, and Alien Shotzi were a little bit minus. I don't remember their exact stats, but yeah, they didn't look good this weekend. They just got outslayed majorly, and Dashy was the only one that kind of fried at all. So outslayed, but you know, LA Thieves is a really good team. They have a really solid team over there now. You know, Envoy, Draza, Kenny, and Octane, really solid team. So it's hard to be, you know, mad against that. Obviously, it was a good matchup and very entertaining to watch. On to our fourth matchup of the second round on Saturday. We have the Toronto Ultra versus the Florida Mutineers. Now, this is the first time that a lot of us have probably seen Toronto Ultra this entire year so far, because they have been over in Europe playing and scrimming all the European teams. And this is the only team that had a bye from the first round that ends up going through to Sunday. And they win 3-1. I did not watch, unfortunately, any of these matches, so I can't really give you some, you know, insight into the actual, you know, gameplay or anything. But, you know, Toronto obviously was a top team last year. A lot of teams didn't know where to put them because they haven't really seen them. They haven't really scrimmed them. So, you know, they didn't really know exactly where to put this team. But obviously they come out, they show their worth, and they move on to Sunday. So, on Sunday, we're down to 4 teams now. We have the Seattle Surge versus the New York Subliners. Now, if you had told me last year that we didn't have FaZe here, we didn't have OpTic here, we didn't have, well, I mean, Toronto was there, but if you would have told me that OpTic and Atlanta weren't in, you know, the was it grand final? No, not grand finals, semifinals, quarterfinals, semifinals, I think. I would have said, I probably would have laughed at you because of how good both those teams have looked. But we have Seattle, we have New York. New York, you know, they probably would have looked to be the team with the advantage in this one, but somehow, some way, the Seattle Surge changing their plans, writing a new book. I used it before, I'll use it again. Seattle comes out with the 3-1 victory, sending them to a grand finals. Something they haven't even, you know, sniffed at since the CDL has formed. Seattle Surge is going to a grand finals. That's just incredible. On to our second matchup, we have the LA Thieves versus the Toronto Ultra. You know, I don't want either of these teams to win. LA looked really good in their matchup, but Toronto came out and looked just a little bit better. They win the game 5. Actually, with how close, well, we'll get to that in a second. Toronto wins this one in game 5. You know, they look good. They move on to the grand finals versus the Seattle Surge, and they end up winning it all. Toronto Ultra, your Kickoff Classic champs. They win $30,000 for getting first place. You know, we did get a glimpse of what this game's going to play like. And oh boy, are we in for a rough year. Now, let me start by saying this. I'm not just crapping on the game just to crap on the game. But, what was it? Bocage, I think it is. I could be wrong on the map name here. But a lot of the maps I saw were literally everyone rushed the point and hoped to win the trades. Now, what I mean by that, you have 4 players, let's just use the grand finals. You have 4 players on Ultra. You have 4 players on Surge. Rush the hill and hope to your team wins the trade. And then they all respawn and do it again. And do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Then rotate, then do it again, then do it again, then do it again, then rotate. Like, it was constant chaos. And as someone that's watched competitive Call of Duty for a long time, I could barely tell what was going on. And I know I tweeted it out and someone was like, oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, tell me what just happened in that map. Tell me what plays happened. Tell me who went off. Everyone went plus or minus like 2 or 3, and the map was like a 4-point game with like a minute left on the game clock. And you're telling me that was a good game? No. That was chaos. That was, like, that's why I could never get into Overwatch. Was because of how chaotic it was, because of how much action there was that you couldn't really tell what was going on. That even players that play Overwatch were like, oh yeah, this is kind of crazy. I play Call of Duty since Black Ops 1 and competitive since Ghosts. There's never been a more chaotic Call of Duty ever. And we played 5v5 Black Ops 4. Like, that's saying something. But congrats to Toronto. A lot of teams really surprised this weekend. Obviously, Seattle going all the way to grand finals after, you know, completely writing a new book in the offseason. New York coming out and showing they could be a top team. You know, struggles from Atlanta, OpTic, Minnesota. You know, LAG expected more out of. Boston, we didn't really know what to get out of, but they actually made up a pretty good performance from New York. And then we should be in for a good year. I mean, if this is, you know, the most talented year we've had yet, and with a lot of these young players, I'm excited. I'm hoping that the game becomes better, so that way it's not just a absolute chaotic mess to watch. And I'm hoping for a good year. Obviously, I'm hoping OpTic wins the entire year, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit that like button down below if you haven't yet. Or if you're brand new here, make sure to subscribe. Turn those post notifications on so you never miss an upload. And don't forget, you can always change your mind later. But all that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next one.